Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Tall Talk. My name is Corey Andre, and thank you so much for joining me. Today, we have a very special episode because it is our first public small talk episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got the first two on our Patreon. If this interests you, please check that out. You might like to hear more of the things we have to talk about. But before I can get into the topic of today's episode, I have one of my best friends here with me today. His name is Cale Miller. Brother, how you doing?
I'm doing well, dude. It's not as hot today.
Yeah.
And we're knocking this one out early.
Oh, yeah.
Versus our normal scheduled recordings are always late at night.
Yeah, I'm not going to be scrambling to finish this one up.
So, no, looking forward to this. We've done a couple of small talks, like you said, for the Patreon. So that's been fun. And the first one we're putting out on the main channel.
Yeah.
So excited for this one. And these have been a lot of fun. It's interesting for us to go into topics a little bit more, dive in a little more specific, have a little bit of longer run time on one specific thing instead of switching it up for the questions like we normally do and play both sides.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to this one. But how are you doing, dude?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Like you said, it's been nice and cool today. Mm-hmm. We're right in the middle of August in Los Angeles, and it's pretty toasty outside. But luckily, we got the car air conditioner going today.
Finally,
we're sitting at a nice 77 degrees in here.
It's perfect.
Yeah, perfect. If you're a fan of the show, you might notice that Xavier's not here with us today. We're just keeping this light between me and Cale because it's going to be a much shorter episode.
Yeah,
and we wanted to get something out.
Xavier is also visiting his family is visiting him.
No, they're gone. We just didn't want to record with them today.
Oh, yeah. That's okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes more sense. Yeah. That seems more our style.
I didn't want to text them.
No accommodations, no nothing. He understands. Yeah. He'll understand. He'll listen when we put it out.
Yeah, I mean, we're just going to tell him this is what we did. And
he will have nothing to say about it. He'll be like, nice. And then he'll be in his car like,
fucking seething, just grinding his teeth.
Yeah, he's just like, why are you at the dentist so much lately? He's just grinding his teeth down all the way.
That's why he has to get to veneers, man.
Just so mad.
Just ground down his teeth.
Damn.
Well, the topic of today's episode is actually going to be movie adaptions.
Yes.
And we were talking about this a while ago, and it kind of got sparked after the recent Borderlands movie came out, which I did not see, but I'm not going to see. There are multiple factors for the reason I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
Outside of it just being an absolute box office bomb and a movie that nobody asked for.
Yeah. I don't recall people saying this is what we should bring to the big screen.
No, it didn't really sound good.
No.
But I hope you guys enjoy our discussion on movie adaptions.
Let's do it.
Here's the first question. Why do most movie adaptions of popular media fail? Because we're going to talk about, like I said, the Borderlands adaptation. There's been, how many Star Wars things that people just, even if they're monetary successes, they're not really well liked by the fandom.
Right. I think that's a hard one to break into. Fandoms are just that. They're going to have very strong opinions on something they care about a lot.
Right.
Right or wrong. They're going to be made public. And very vocal about what they like and what they dislike. So that's kind of a double-edged sword. If you have a product that most people like, or you stayed faithful to source material, or you did something along those lines, the adoration and how these characters are, it could be a lifetime. Yeah. If you're a certain character, but if it's terrible, they can blame you.
Yeah. And I think I wonder how much of it has to do with the director or the screenwriter or the studio that's involved with making them and changing them the way that they do to become very unsuccessful IPs.
Right. Like what happens in the budget, maybe that they couldn't do something that they wanted to do storyline wise, or adding
or the reshoots or things
like that didn't test well in like test groups or something like that. And then they're just already committed and it's staying.
Yeah.
Either way. But going back to the question, why do most fail? Or not most, but why they're failures in general? I think a lot of it has to be lore wise.
Okay.
In what I personally think, I think if you have source material, comic books, novels, just adaptation of games, things like that, you have something successful laid out in front of you.
Right.
Just bring it to life. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
And that's easier said than done. We're not bringing
we're not screenwriters,
we're not budgets and transferring everything. But what's really, as I've gotten older and the more movies I see, how much casting makes a difference.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah, if you get the wrong cast, or you get, somebody that doesn't fit the character of like what's lined out in a book or in a game or something like that, where you just go completely adverse to what people are expecting.
Yeah.
I don't recall that being a good thing ever.
I don't really, it's pretty far and few between where you can make big changes to not only how a character looks, but also what their character does and say. Because like there's been multiple instances where like you take a movie and you base it off of an IP, like maybe Harry Potter or something.
Yeah.
And you create a new character that fills the role of multiple characters. So you don't have to have more people coming in.
That makes sense.
I get that. There's been, I think The Boys did that as well with a few of their characters. I think Stormfront was one of those combined characters.
Right. Makes sense.
Because there are just multiple, there's so, I mean, with a book, you have so much, or comic book or whatever, you have so much room to explore. You're not really limited by a time constraint budget.
Right.
As you are, other budgets.
Right. And I think it's a slippery slope. Like you say, harder than it sounds, but having something that's successful media and staying true to it, I think is the best option. But also if you're the creator of it and you skew from the plan, I also think that can be good and bad. Like my only example I have like off the top of my head is Robert Kirkman from Walking Dead.
Okay.
And how
who was he?
I think he's the creator, and he directed a lot.
Okay, the creator. Okay,
right. I believe so. And he made the choice to kill off extra characters in a pivotal scene with Negan, like that first initial meeting. And also what you choose to show makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah.
Particularly brutal with the Glenn scene.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's not the target demographic for that, but he was done with the show after seeing that. It was very bothersome to him,
right,
to see that kind of just like gratuitous, like realistic violence.
That was like a kicking the dog moment. Like we need to show this person's bad by having them do the worst thing to a character.
Yeah. So it's something like, that doesn't need sometimes the reputation or the illusion of how evil a character is more suiting to the character than physically showing it.
Right.
And I think a lot of people were turned off by that, but that was also his choice to kill off additional characters in that scene. But he's the creator. What are you going to do?
Right.
Like, I mean, not that you could combat that or they wouldn't have spoken up about it, but maybe you just go for shock value. But how far does that take you?
Sure.
I was thrown off by it. I kind of phased out.
I stopped watching about halfway through the next season. Yeah. I didn't get where the story was going. I didn't know why those characters were making those actions.
My uncle pointed out something. My uncle from New York has been in Broadway and in media for forever now.
Yeah.
And he brought up a very simple point to me, and I never kind of let go of it. He said, once the zombies were not the main threat anymore to a zombie show, he said, you lost me.
Okay.
The fact that it's all just evil people doing evil things is not what the show is supposed to be about. I understand that there's this eventual like transformation that has to happen, and that's how the storyline gets furthered and all this other stuff. But when you pay like little to no mind to the zombies anymore in a post-apocalyptic zombie show, he's like, you've lost me. And like that kind of resonated with me. And another thing, I know we're focusing on this, but another thing, casting. If one of your favorite characters dies or you don't like what happens, there is a legitimate chance that you stop watching. So that's what I did.
Oh, sure.
I was like, I don't find myself caring anymore.
Yeah.
And that's hard to make that choice or further a storyline further than it has to go because you hold on to a character or you write a character like Daryl who wasn't supposed to have a monster role and ends up being a pivotal character, if not the pivotal character of the series. So I guess the writing and the casting goes hand in hand, but people expect a certain thing once you put out a product. And when it tanks, I think it's court of popular opinion. Like everybody's going to have their say.
Yeah.
But if you're making a drastic change to something, be prepared for people to just be like, nope.
Oh, sure. But with the Walking Dead thing, like I'm sure that was planned out. And I don't think that they expected the backlash that they did. Right. I really don't think so. But I want to go back to your point of like the zombie show not being about zombies. I there always has to be a human element in that sort of story. Cause like the real threat is what we do to each other in the worst of the worst.
We're the worst evil here.
Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. But like that was already, when did Negan come in? Season 7? Yeah. Like we had already established the human element being bad. Like when the governor was there in season 3.
The governor, already, you got the big bad and the guy who tries to kill the innocents and the prisoners and everything.
But like there's already somebody worse.
Yeah. There's always has to be somebody worse. There's never like a thing where, and I don't particularly like it just because it is realistic, because there's always going to be people that are not going to be for common good.
Sure.
But at some point, at some drastic level at the end of times, there has to be some kind of banding together.
Yeah.
The fact that it's always people choosing to like, nope, don't want to help anybody, don't want to care about you, don't want to do anything. Like, doesn't that get tiring as a storyline?
Yeah.
Like doesn't that?
But like and this isn't pushback, but by the time, that happened again, 7 or 8 seasons in, what more do you have to say about any of the characters involved or the situation? Like there's either a zombie apocalypse that destroyed all of Earth, or there's not. Like you can't keep addressing the same archetype of this evil, beyond evil person with almost no morals to speak of. It doesn't make sense.
It's the same recurring storyline, just with different people. Because it's like, okay, we have to get here. And then, there's some semblance of normalcy. We're all happy. Oh, somebody else wants to come attack us.
Yeah.
Okay, we dealt with that. Let's rebuild. Let's further our stuff. Okay, somebody else is coming to attack us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
And then they created 2 offshoot shows that are the same thing. Yeah. And now Daryl's somewhere in Europe. I haven't caught up.
Yeah, no, I mean, it. And like I said, I liked the show. I did all that up until a certain point, and then you just get oversaturated with things. And I think that's a hard thing to choose with movie adaptations too. How much is too much?
Yeah.
Dragging this into 3 movies, like we were talking about the other day, The Hobbit.
Yeah,
exactly. Dragging that out when it could have been a 2-film max.
Yeah.
And really had everything going for it. Instead, I understand that the companies that sponsor you or produce the movies or this and that, they want to make the most money possible. Yeah. It's okay. That's business. I get it. But like, just seeing for what it is outside of the scope of wanting to make money. Why are we dragging this out? That's like all these extra seasons of shows or movies that come out that drag things on. I just don't see the value in it in an art form type of way.
Yeah.
I see the value
it feels like content.
Yes.
Which is just this, we have the IP, we got to put something out.
Yeah. It's like we want to stay relevant. Yeah. Exactly. That's what I get out of it. And I haven't watched, I'm jumping around, but I haven't watched Rings of Power. I don't think I'm really interested in it.
I had no interest in watching that show.
I felt the same way. No disrespect to anybody that likes it or wants it or had anything.
Yeah.
But like, this is what I was talking about whenever Lord of the Rings. It's one of the main things that I love in life and hold dear is that trilogy for whatever reason.
And even that had adaptions that they took out Tom Bombadil, which a lot of people are upset about. But like, if you didn't know the books, it's still an amazing 14-hour experience, you know?
Exactly. They did it right. And casting was huge in that one.
Yeah.
But also it wasn't this thing. It's like once it ended, it was left alone for the longest time until the Hobbits came on. And that wasn't really...
That was forced by the studios.
Yeah.
And then who was it? Guillermo del Toro was directing it and then he dropped out. But the studios are like, we have so much invested. Jackson, please come in and finish this. He's like, I don't want to do this. And they're like, here's money. He's like, all right, I'll do this.
It's like, nah. Oh,
yeah. Plus they were going to attach a lot of the people from the movies that he did, the Lord of the Rings movies. And like, it was just, it wasn't, The Hobbit was objectively not, objectively, the Hobbit, in my opinion, was not good. I enjoyed the book. I did not enjoy the movies. I watched the 3 of them. I just thought they were bland. They were over bloated, and they were including new characters that didn't further the story in any way.
I get that. Yeah, it just feels like filler. Like that's something that you would possibly watch if you're flicking through the TV. If we even do that anymore, everything's streaming now. But if you do that and it happens to be on and you're kind of like, oh yeah, I'm in the mood for this. It's been enough time, but I've never put it on past watching it in the theaters and been like, this is what I really want to watch. Lord of the Rings anytime.
Oh, sure.
The first 3, but
this still sells out theaters.
Oh yeah. I mean, we did my sister and I, we went to the 40X thing for the Two Towers, maybe a month or so ago, a little bit over a month. And it was jam packed.
Yeah.
People love it. And then after they were done with Return of the King, they didn't try to do anything else with it. They had some video game stuff like that, but nothing with the show or trying to do a spinoff or trying to do anything. It it was left alone in its like pristine condition. And I think some people need to know when to leave something be.
I think that's why Rings of Power did well in the first couple episodes, but then the few people that I've talked to who did watched it dropped out. They didn't end up finishing the first season because there were so many changes to the source material. Like, and like, I get that race is an issue for people for
some reason,
for whatever
imaginary.
Yeah. You know,
oh my God.
Like that is a black person's an elf or whatever. It's like
there's
that
no
doesn't
black
matter.
People in
like,
Middle Earth. Dude, you're arguing with a fictional.
Yeah.
Made up.
It's a non-issue, right?
Yeah, seriously.
But like, what I heard why it didn't do well is because it wasn't interesting. It was this $500 million experiment that was just glorified nothingness. It was just filler. And I don't know if they got a second season out of it.
They're doing it.
Are they?
They're doing it because
how long? I mean, that was
they brought in Tom
3 or 4 years ago,
I think, for this current season. But like I said, I haven't watched it. I haven't. But that's not just strictly with that. There's certain things that like I leave alone that I just don't have interest in off of a main source material. I've heard nothing but good things about The Mandalorian. I have no interest in that because I don't go outside the scope of the first 6 movies really. And then now the 9 movies. Yeah. But other than that, there's all these things that are brought out. And yet again, I take that back. Okay. I did like the Obi-Wan show. I watched it. I love Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. So I was like, oh, him and Hayden Christensen are back. I want to watch that. It's only 6 episodes. I'll give it a shot. And I really ended up enjoying it. So I can't say that I wasn't interested in the extras.
But if that was a movie adaptation where they're like, all right, it's going to be its own 3-hour movie with Ewan McGregor and Anakin fighting, like, would that have been as interesting as a 6-series show where you had time to sit with these characters and figure out the world and get immersed again? Or do you think a shortened runtime would have done better for something like that? Removed the bloat.
I would have been curious to see if it was a movie that was like maybe 2 hours long.
Okay.
And actually physically came out as a streaming thing. I don't see it being that different from the 6-part miniseries.
Okay.
So I think it could have been successful as a movie, but I'm happy with how they did it.
Yeah.
But that was like unprovoked to me. It wasn't like something that I was like, oh man, I really wish there was a filler thing between this and this. Like I never wanted that. I never really thought about that. I'm not crazy into Star Wars, but once again, there's a bunch of people that are pissed that there was a black chick in the Obi-Wan series and there's Asian people in the Acolyte. I guess there's so many shows now. I have no idea what that. And people are pissed about that. So I'm like, what do you want?
I don't know. But that's kind of going outside the movie adaptation scope, like bringing race into things where people have strong feelings for whatever reason. That doesn't make sense, but it's not really what we're getting at.
Right.
The one thing I'll go back to is when Borderlands, you talked about casting makes a huge difference, and
get into it.
Where I'll say is like I'm a fan of the games. Like I want a Borderlands tattoo, right?
Yeah.
Like I played several of them. I really love them. And when they announced the movie, my first thought was why? I wasn't interested enough in the series to watch a movie about it because I don't think the story is as interesting as the gameplay,
right?
First of all. But second of all, it was who they attached to it. Eli Roth was directing it. I'm not a fan of Eli Roth, or really any of his movies. And then thirdly, I didn't care for the casting because they were trying to go from the first video game of Borderlands and tell that story while using people who were not only wildly out of the age range of the protagonists of the story.
I remember you saying.
The main character who Cate Blanchett plays, her name's Lilith, and she's supposed to be around 20-something years old in the first game.
Yeah.
Cate Blanchett is like clearly not in her 20s. No. She's been around for a minute.
She looks good, but she's not great. Anywhere near that.
Not for that role. No. And again, like Jamie Lee Curtis, like in her late 60s or whatever, playing somebody who's in their 40s. Like, and then you have this casting of Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart's fine with me. I have no qualms with Kevin Hart, whatever. But it wasn't a role for him because the person he was playing was just it was just exact opposite of what Kevin Hart is. Like he was supposed to be playing somebody who's like 6 foot or above, muscular, and a straight man. And Kevin Smith was, I mean, he's known for being shorter, but he's known for being a comedian.
Right.
So when you see him in a preview,
you think it's levity.
Yeah. You see like, oh, he's going to be the funny guy in this movie.
It's like,
but it's not. And then Jack Black was horribly miscast as well, when they could have just gotten the original voice actor.
Yeah.
Because he's playing a cartoon robot. Like they like, why? Then I know why. They went after him because of the name. They attached every name they could.
Yeah.
And Eli Roth said that he wanted to attach the biggest names to the project he could. I'm working with quote unquote actors is like what he said. And it's just like, why didn't you pick people based on their acting ability to fill this role?
Right.
If you're going to do this story, why are you going to change the core of it so much? It just does not make sense.
And this is not necessarily really the point here, but I also see that that's messed up in a way of like, I don't want to get in the way of anybody making money or having their due, but doesn't this like miscasting people take food out of somebody else's mouth or recognition or on the come up? There's could have been 500 people that could have played that main character and like fit the role or gotten their chance. Or I'm not saying like, oh, here, let's take unknowns.
Yeah.
But like when
or
it's
even like taking out Jack Black's character, right?
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Where it's a voice acting role, you could have given that to anyone.
Yeah.
Like to not give other younger actors or other actors that aren't well known their due, I think is just irresponsible. Like you have all that power. You've created a script. Why not cast it properly?
I agree.
It didn't really make sense. It didn't sit with me, and that's why I didn't watch the show. But our next question is, what were some good and or faithful adaptions that you think ended up working? My big one, the newest one I talked about in our show before, is Fallout.
Yeah.
And we can kind of talk back and forth between this question and the last of failure and successes.
Right.
But in my opinion, Fallout, the TV show, stuck with the source material.
Right.
It's like clearly it wasn't based off of any one particular game. It was based off of the universe. And just like within the Star Wars series, the set design and the characters design and the motivations are what you would see in that video game.
Right.
Whereas opposed to where you create things and just change it all. It's like, well, who is this for?
Yeah. Like if you have something and everything recognizable about it, you don't do likeness to that.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that even gets approved.
Yeah. Like if they had made the Fallout show as a Mad Max show with the same kind of like dressing, like the same costumes and stuff, you'd be like, this is not Fallout.
Right.
Like this is like 1% of what the universe is, but it's not what the game is or about.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's all harbors back to, I think this is more specific to video games because all of it is imagery.
Yeah.
Right. All of it is imagery and the gameplay.
Feeling and pacing.
So whenever you take on a video game based lore and you don't use the proven theory or design or track that you can just stay on, I cannot understand what that is. A lot of people are nervous about the BioShock movie, if that's still happening, or the BioShock video.
The series show. I think that was supposed to be.
So there's
made.
Opportunity for stuff to be awesome. That's one of my favorite series of all time.
I got some bad news for you there.
It's got canceled already.
They already they said they had this big budget. It was like several $100 million.
Yeah,
and it was like last week, 2 weeks ago. They're like, oh, we're scrapping the budget, and we're making it a more intimate story within the BioShock universe.
Why?
I don't know.
At all?
Why continue doing it? It's such a grand IP. Like the whole thing is this beautiful gold and mineral Art Deco experience underwater that demands a lot of costume design, a lot of visual effects and special effects in order to tell.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, we blew the budget. So now we're just going to make it like some small thing with like 5 people in a room.
It makes no sense because you literally could just do everything and put the budget, make the first game a movie.
Yeah.
Just follow the whole, the script, the character design, the environment, how you could do CGI, how you could do lighting, how you can do the combat.
Yeah.
Everything could be a whole thing. Instead, it's like, oh, we're going to do an artistic approach. And I'm not saying don't touch stuff if you're not going to do, you don't have to be a purist, But what sense does that make? Who is this appealing to? Now that I hear BioShock, I think about the fight scenes, the plasmids, all this other stuff. And I hear a more intimate setting in a war zone, just Wild West under the water.
Yeah.
Why do I need an intimate story about anything?
What is it going to reveal about that IP that you didn't already have?
See,
because I think you're going to see these adaptions of things like, well, what did they do with the source material to not change it, but to elevate it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know necessarily what the show's going to be about because it has changed scripts several times as far as I've read. But like, let's pretend that like it's you're following a splicer, one of the townspeople before the fall of Rapture. Thank you. I think that'd be an interesting story.
Yeah,
sure. Like
see how everything falls apart.
Yeah, exactly. That would be great. But like, if you're already telling me that like you don't have the budget or the manpower to even make something like that possible, like I don't understand it. Like you even if you so you're going to tell the story of the first game, but you're going to take away the budget.
How is that going to work?
Is that going to
Setting
look?
yourself up for failure immediately. If you're going to scrap something entirely like that, just don't do the show.
Don't do it. Or shelve it and then retool it into something else years later.
Yeah, because I mean, there is a novel. I've only read like 1 or 2 chapters so far, but there is a novel out about Rapture as it's falling.
Okay.
It has the golden age part of it, and then it's how it descends into chaos.
Yeah.
Adapt that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's not something that someone can be like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. It's source material from a novel that someone wrote about it.
Yeah.
So like pick and choose what you want. But when I hear that, I'm just immediately already turned off to it.
Yeah, I agree. And I probably won't give it the time of day.
No.
Just from all of maybe that goes back to our first question of why do things fail? Do we have in our head something built, like there's already this, like we said, established IP or this established look for things. And when we hear that they're changing things, that turns me off. But like, is that like a big problem? It's like, well, I'm not going to watch this now.
Yeah, it might be our own personal thoughts about it and what we would want to see versus what they're putting out. So you're already having lofty expectations, but also you take that on as a designer or as somebody who's taking on the project. Here's something that's tried and true. Yeah. You wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't successful, and then you want to switch it. Doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Oh, we're going to revitalize and do this. Like BioShock came out like,
oh God, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not new and people still play it. People still stream it, still do all these things. So it's like, why are you messing with it? Like it's tried and true. Like, I don't understand. If you want to do something new or have a spinoff of something, do something original.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like being closed-minded and being like almost like gatekeeping. I would say it's in that realm. Yeah. But also, no one's forcing you to make Rings of Power. No one's forcing you to do The Hobbit. No one's forcing you to do any of these shows. Borderlands. Nobody asked for that.
No.
Nobody was like, you know what we need? This is what we need.
Yeah.
And I just don't get it. But also, I appreciate people wanting to undertake these projects, but it's just doesn't, when it doesn't work, it burns.
Yeah. And you know what too, like to add to that or piggyback on it, I think like we're kind of getting at, people can sense when something just is off. Like with the Rings of Power, like I was just like, it just doesn't, I don't get what they're going for.
Right.
And because of my previous knowledge of the universe, it's just like, I don't want to spend my time there.
Yeah.
And especially with the Rings of Power, that's what I said to myself when it came out. I was like, I'm done with this universe. Yeah. I already saw
what I wanted to see.
6 movies about this with 4 books, you know, like I'm done with that universe.
Yeah, it's saturated.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
So stop it.
Stop doing it.
No, but it's hard to say because there are successful adaptations to movies.
Yeah,
and they're done really well.
Or media in general.
Yeah.
Like One Piece, which again I didn't watch, but that was a show about fan service, and they took their time to find actors who really respected the role and wanted to be in it. In fact, we brought up Henry Cavill, and why that poor guy keeps getting screwed over. Every franchise he touches just
doesn't value his thoughts about wanting to stay true to source material.
Yeah.
He himself is a fan. If the one who wants to make the show is obviously going to star in the show and believes in the product they're putting out, he's going to give you his best effort. Why would you squander that? I just don't, I don't see where it lines up. And this is where this is where artistic minds butt up against corporate minds, and then it never goes well.
Right.
I mean, the Lord of the Rings is an offshoot of that. I think the Harry Potter movies are like great. I enjoyed them, and I didn't read all the books, so I was like that. The Dune series.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of information to try to squeeze into a couple movies.
Yeah.
But also I thought it was balanced. I liked it. The casting was good. It's just, there are successful adaptations, but like you said, with Henry Cavill, wanted to do Warhammer. I'm not versed in that. You guys are, but it sounded really cool. It would have brought me into that universe, seeing this person cares so much about it and having a big budget now of how much CGI there is, how much tech there is to make these huge battles happen and all these kind of costume designs, and someone who really cares about it. It would have got me more enthralled in it. It would have got me more like into the series to where I would have maybe wanted to play. That's a jump. That's not like roping in people, but
now you've heard these problems in production.
Yeah. And now names do draw people in. Henry Cavill, he's a pull.
Yeah.
So like, that's already a plus for your thing and for you to squander that. The Witcher.
Yeah.
The Witcher died after he left.
Dude, halfway through the second season, you already pissed off the fans. They're like, done. This isn't what the Witcher books are. This isn't what this character does. What are you doing? Why not just make something different?
Yeah.
Just take that idea and then just call it something else. I say that all the time.
Say,
like
inspired by The Witcher.
Oh, sure.
Why not? You could have been like, oh, this is the source material, but we're going in a completely different direction. It's going to be new.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yeah.
Instead, let's get rid of the lead who cares about this and who everyone's gotten attached to. Let's get rid of him.
Yeah.
What sense does that make? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm sure there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. It's maybe not as simple as we're making it out to be.
Sure. As consumers. Yeah.
Maybe there's a lot of red tape or this and that, or we can't use it, or scheduling conflicts. I don't know what it is, but you're the ones choosing to put out the media.
Yeah.
So, I mean, another good adaptation, I thought, even though they switched characters, we talked about this the other day when we were writing this, the Batman movies.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Those are like two of the only ones that swap their main character and have a successful franchise still.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Batman, I'm getting pretty tired of, but like, it's been a consistent IP since like the 80s.
Forever.
You know,
it's going to be forever.
Yeah.
They're going to keep redoing it and rebringing in either new villains or recurring characters and just revamp it every so often.
That I'll say this it's why I did not watch the newest one. I was told that it was really, really good. The one with
Rob Pattinson.
Yeah. But I'm tired of Batman.
That's fair.
And that for me, like in popular media failing, or like with a Lord of the Rings, I'm tired of the universe. I'm tired of the stories from this. I don't want to see any more. If you love Batman, that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm done with Batman. I don't care.
And then that makes me think of, even though that's DC content, how many Marvel movies they have on the docket right now.
I stopped watching after Endgame, and they just kept going.
Endgame was the one for me where I was like, hell yeah. I was never super into comic books, but I was like, this is really cool. I like a lot of these characters, blah, 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 blah. They're like core staples.
Yeah.
Did a good job with it. But then you see this, and this, like every character has a movie, or every character has all this other thing. And I think that's just oversaturation for the fans. Awesome. Because you keep those original things. And if you're really into it, this is more for you to enjoy, more for you to throw yourself into. But it's also just a money-making machine. Like Marvel and Disney probably don't care if it's good, because they know people are going to watch it. I
think Marvel does. I think Star Wars is less considered to just by way of the things that I've seen produced from Star Wars and how poorly a lot of them were received. Because you also have an incredibly rabid fan base.
Yeah,
that will pick it apart.
They don't play.
Yeah, I try not to touch Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, because they're like, don't you talk about Star Wars? Don't you talk about Star Wars? What are you talking about? This all yeah.
It's terrible stuff.
It's accurate though.
But with Marvel, they've done a pretty damn consistent job.
Yeah.
I don't think any of their movies have performed poorly. I think the Marvels and one other one might have not done well, but there's still millions of dollars that they made back. And they do have a consistent through line of like Kevin Feige's been able like to really helm a lot of this and direct it. But it like, so that was my pushback. I think Marvel cares, but at the same time, it is flooded. I'm tired of seeing Marvel stuff. Dude, I don't want to see comic books heroes anymore. I might go see the odd one every now and then, but it's not an interest of me.
Yeah, this goes down to personal taste.
Yeah.
If you're all into superhero movies and you're all into the Marvel universe, this is your dream.
Oh, it's a golden age. I'm glad you get to enjoy all of this.
But that's again another thing of like more media. I forgot where I'm going with this, so I'll just pivot.
Okay, pivot
and say people who are oversaturated with things, right? And complain about it, complain about Star Wars, complain about the Rings of Power, any of these other things. Just don't watch it.
I didn't.
No, I'm saying like in terms of the people that are having so much backlash about this and that. I can't believe they're doing this. You don't actively have to watch it.
Yeah.
You just shut up.
Yeah. And here we are recording about it.
Yeah, we need to be heard.
Yeah,
I said they need to shut up.
That's
not
right.
Us.
You need to
shut up out there. But I mean, I do appreciate, and I think you can tell, like you said, One Piece. I'm not familiar. I've never been super into anime or anything like that, but I do respect that that's a giant genre. There's a rabid fan base for everything, and they have a really deep storylines and all these recurring characters and all these things, and people build them up. But whenever people take the time to do the fan service, to do things the right way, it shows in your product.
Oh, 100%.
When it's just thrown together.
Yeah.
Like we were talking the other day, the last season of Game of Thrones was just thrown together because they didn't care about how they left people who have invested their time and their emotional connection. I know it's silly to say, but people do get emotionally connected to this, and that's your ritual. You watching with your loved ones, or you're really looking forward to that every week. It's
the water cooler talk at work. You know, it was, the big event. Did you see what happened to Jon Snow?
And for them to just like not give a
the bed,
like on the climax of it, they're just like, oh, we got better things coming along.
Yeah,
that is terrible.
They're like, well, we got hired to do Star Wars stuff, so we don't want to really flesh this out, and we're going to cut the episodes per season because we can.
Yeah, they should have just handed it off to someone who cared. Man. There would have been 1,000 people that would have stepped up to that job and said, no, man, I really want my shot.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll take over where we're at now. But they just didn't do that. And I cannot for the life of me understand. We were left just puzzled.
Yeah. And you want to talk about like adaptions of media. I read, I think there's 5. I read the 5 books.
Okay.
And they're huge books. They're tomes.
Yeah.
But the show took many, many, many liberties because those books being nearly 2,000 pages per or whatever, they have tons of characters. There's tons of backstory. There's tons of political stuff going back and forth. And he's a great world builder. I love the way George R.R. Martin writes.
Very, very cool to see all these different areas, all these different sects of people, everything. Like that world is immersive. It's one of the ones that are very, very immersive to where you're like, this is believable.
And that's why the first 6.5 seasons of Game of Thrones were like, great TV.
Yeah.
Like it was like, wow, these are really fascinating.
Really look forward to it every week.
And they did so while cutting major characters out of the show. There were like 4 or 5 major characters and they're like, all right, we need to reach these plot points, but we don't have these characters to do it. So they pivoted. And as somebody who is only watching the show with no knowledge of the books, it's great TV. Yeah. And as somebody who read the books, you're like, yeah, all right. I'm fine with them not showing that.
They're still getting to these.
It's good TV. It's good adaptations.
Yeah. Okay. So that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to balance. Like you said, I think that's one of the only shows that, well, I guess Lord of the Rings too, that balanced people who read the books also like the movies.
Yeah.
There's like either or would be okay.
Yeah.
If you had read the books, cool. Like you said, you're like, okay, I see what they're doing here. Would have been cool to see that. Would have been cool to have them take the time, but it's not integral to the story to where it derailed everything.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, whenever it's just these choices of what's best for the show versus what's best for the fans, like, aren't you, at the end of the day, you're making it for money, for a profit, but aren't you making it for people to hold on to? If people hate something, then what's the point?
I don't know.
And that to me just doesn't make any sense. I'm really looking forward to, there's been enough time, but there's that animated Lord of the Rings movie, The War of the Rohirrim, is coming out. And I'm really looking forward to it because that was a portion of the movies and it's an animated thing. It's a different medium. So I'm more open to it being like that. Maybe that I would have live action. I
find it very interesting you brought that up. I'm glad you did because that's where I wanted to kind of like end this conversation on was I think that maybe the biggest failure of adapting adaptations from comic books and books and video games into movies is that they become live action, meaning there's real people, there's real effects, and you're limited by reality. I think that, just like you're saying with the new Lord of the Rings or whatever, if you can animate something or make it like a CG movie or something like that,
exactly.
you could do a lot more. You could be so much more fanciful with everything. You wouldn't have to worry about, well, we had to get Kevin Hart on screen. We had to get Henry Cavill on screen. Yeah. It doesn't matter because you're watching a character now and you're getting invested in the story, not the actor.
Agreed. That I would be more open to more things being animated.
Oh, 100%. As a lifelong cartoon watcher.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like some people might take that as like a, not a dig, but a thing of like, oh, cartoons are for kids, blah, 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 blah. The way animated shows come out now in terms of like One Piece, any anime series basically, and any of these shows that can be adapted, like Dead Island for Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. Awesome. You know, all these adaptations. And like you said, you don't have to worry about casting as much. You can use the voice actors from the thing that people know and love.
Yeah.
If they were to do a Metal Gear either animated series or a Metal Gear CGI movie, it would crush.
Oh, dude, totally. Yeah.
So, I mean,
a limited series directed by and created by Hideo Kojima.
Yeah, it would be
when like, what is it, like 7 hours of the fourth game is just cutscene?
Literally. It's just a movie. Yeah. It's multiple movies.
They have the record for the longest cutscene. It's 70 minutes in the epilogue.
I love it. I love everything about it.
It was long. I wanted to play my game.
Yeah, you're just like, get to the tutorial.
But I think that's if you're going to do adaptations of things, that's kind of what I want to see, is like not focusing on the actors, not focusing on reality of it, is just going all out with it. If you're going to stick to the source material, great. Yeah. If you're going to be weird with it, also great, but make it something that's appealing to people.
Enjoyable.
Yeah. Like it can't just be for you. It can't just be for the studio because they want something made.
Right.
I think fans and non-fans can just look at it at face value, again, like Borderlands, and say, what is this?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's important because a lot of people get caught up with the names of directors or the projects that they've done. I think it shows drastically when you have somebody who's a fan of something.
Yeah.
Like Peter Jackson, huge fan of the books, huge fan of everything, wanted to do it. It's a passion project almost. You have people from Game of Thrones that like whenever they were invested, were fans of it, wanted to do it, wanted to make this brought to life. So I think placing your faith in the right people on every level is very important. But how do you, I mean, that's a whole mission in itself.
Yeah. I wonder what poisons the well.
Yeah. But I just, when the things are done right, it's just like that chef's kiss moment of like, oh yes. Oh, you know, it's just perfect. No changes, no notes. But then when you cut corners or you just do things just like to Borderlands, I know we're taking a shit on it, so whatever.
It's new.
But literally, you know, just show stuff. And he openly said, I just wanted big names attached to this, which means you don't think the movie's strong in terms of what was going to be portrayed. And you didn't care about source material or like staying accurate to it. You just wanted names attached, but you could have found better people.
He had a script that was written for it, but then he took it over and he changed the script. And then so there wasn't just meddling by him though, but we also have to bring up meddling by the studios because it was supposed to be a rated R movie. Borderlands is a gory, violent video game, and it's a PG-13 movie. So again, like you're not appealing to the people that you're already trying to appeal to.
Right.
Like,
you're like, oh, this is going to be a gory, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, Eli Roth, the guy who did Hostel, the guy who did like some my first weird, thought. Like, oh, some bloody, gory kills or whatever. And that's going to be, no, it's not going to, we're going to cut that out because the studio said that that's not going to be something that they want.
Then don't make the game.
Then don't make it.
So seems like a simple solution, but hey, we're not in that world. So
what do you think though? Like, do you think that like, if we're going to do these adaptations that like, it should be other forms of art form should be explored, like animation or CGI, as opposed to going right for live action?
Yeah.
Would that be like a bigger savior of these things?
I think so. I mean, you could even do that with, the adaptations are hard.
Yeah.
I think, especially with like beloved lore, a lot of people didn't like the Mulan live action.
Or any of the Disney stuff that they've done.
Anything they've done has been not particularly well received.
Yeah.
But if you redid Mulan and updated it with the animation we have now or a CGI movie or something like that, I think that would have been really well received.
Yeah.
Same thing with Little Mermaid. I would be more open now as I've gotten older because I saw how cool things can be in terms of animated movies or CGI full movies. Like we've grown up on video games. So all these cutscenes and stuff, I'm like, it looks so good. Just do a whole movie.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. I would go and see it. I would pay money to go see those things. I don't think that and this is the backlash. I know my uncle is in the back of my head just saying, he's like, that's jobs out of actors. I get that aspect. You lose that part of it and that kind of part of the industry, but you're not all converting everything to CGI. You're not converting everything. There's still millions of movies that can be made with actors.
And if actors are the one, like they're still actors. They're still voice actors. They're still, and you're all of the artists that are involved in making CGI, like the years long process to do a lot of these Marvel things that are predetermined before scripts are even made. Like the Black Panther, I think the first one that came out, people were upset at because those fight scenes were made in CGI before the movie was filming. So like they plan all that out ahead of time because it takes so long to do it.
Yeah. On a schedule.
And I mean, so like there's still jobs there. It's just not physical people on the stage, but even to push that even further, there's still mocap. If you want if you want somebody, a famous actor doing a CGI role, well, look at video games. Kevin Spacey's in a fucking Call of Duty game. Right. Like we have that technology.
Yeah, we have all that stuff. Yeah. You're right. You're right. There's ways to get around it. I think that it could be a successful pivot. And like you said, it doesn't confine you.
Yeah.
Rings of Power, maybe as an animated series, could have been awesome.
Potentially.
Who knows? Yeah. I mean, even the Hobbit series could have been an animated thing, or not necessarily CGI, but animated. I would have watched it.
Is that Bakshi? No, there's one from like the 70s.
Right. Yeah. That they did the first Lord of the Rings movies. But I think it would be more accepted. I think it should strive for it at least. Throw your money in there. See, not our money, but throw your money as a investment group or a media company to see this and see what happens.
Yeah.
I would hate for, and this is another thing I'll just circle back to. You're saying we've been talking about a lot of an adaptation of video games.
Yeah.
You're used to seeing the CGI. You're used to seeing the cutscene format. If you made a small, shorter movie, like a 50-minute movie of that, that's what people are used to. That's what people love. That's what people play, why they do it.
Yeah.
It makes total sense to transfer that media and put out something that way.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer, or it seems that way at least. But just don't make shitty adaptations.
Do better studios.
Do what we want.
Yeah, do what we want. Don't listen to the fans, but pay fan service.
Oh, this is another thing. The second you said that, it triggered something I wanted to talk to you earlier.
Yeah.
Put more things through fan testing, group testing. You know how they screen and then they did everything like.
I'm like 50-50 on that because I think like when you do a lot of fan service, it can really diminish what the project is trying to say. Like, and I'll use Star Wars specifically when they go for fan service over substance. It's just like a big flop and people are like, what is this?
I think I misspoke.
Okay.
I meant fan testing.
Fan test. Okay.
Like instead of fan service, like have it like the focus groups about it. And well, maybe that's the same thing as what you're saying. But doing focus groups to say like, what is this? If you saw the Borderlands thing and you were just on a random panel and they showed you, this is where we're going, you would respond like, what are you doing?
Well, that's exactly what happened with Borderlands is they showed people and like some of the test screenings and they're like, what is this? And then the studio freaked out and made a bunch of changes. And that's where we get reshoots and like the same, like with the Snyder cuts of everything. It's just, they freaked out at the very end. We were 80% done with this movie. So now we have to change a lot of this stuff and we changed this. So the script has to change. So like, I think,
maybe it's
I think it's a good idea, like having test screenings, but there's this, I don't know, people, I think either the studios listen too hard and overcorrect too far into the project, or they're just unwilling to take chances and let the writers and directors really, really risk things creating new IPs. Because the studios have already invested millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, they want their return and their jobs are on the line. I understand there's a level of pressure for everyone involved. It's just when you take something beloved or something that's very popular and mess it up, it's just like, this was all for naught.
Yeah, it was a waste. Yeah. It was a waste of time. It was a waste of talent.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Well, but this wasn't a waste of time.
No, it wasn't. Thank you for listening. I think this is going to conclude our short talk on movie adaptations. We really appreciate you sticking around, and we hope you liked this version of Tall Talk called The Small Talk.
Smaller.
Yeah, it's a littler.
Smaller talk.
A wee bit of talking.
A wee bit, a skosh of small talk.
Yeah, just a skosh. I like skosh.
Skosh.
So if you like what you've been hearing, we're going to try and keep somewhat consistent while doing the small talks, maybe 1 or 2 a month. They'll definitely be on our Patreon. They're not all going to be available for the public. So if you like hearing that, please sign up for our Patreon at patreon.com/Tall Tale Network.
Yeah.
We have a lot of our skits, extra songs, and stuff from our other podcasts there, the weekly Tall Talk. If you like that, please check it out. You don't have to give us money, but you can see what's there by joining up for free. If you want to get a hold of me and question me about the things that I've said here or ever
you're
again,
going to get it all.
Yeah,
just done it this time. You've got the Star Wars crowd, but
they're coming for me. Beware the Wookiees. You can find me at Instagram at Corey.Andre, COREY.ONDREY. We also have the weekly Tall Talk on Instagram, where again we post some of our behind the scenes stuffs and pictures of what we're doing, some of our hikes, and some songs. I don't know.
Bunch of stuff. Yeah, bunch of stuff on there.
Kit, what about you, brother?
Hey, man, they can find me on Instagram at Kate. Who am I? Tall Tale Kale with an underscore in between each word and a C instead of a K for Kale on Instagram. Like Corey said, we have a communal Instagram page under the Weekly Tall Talk, but we also have a communal TikTok page at the Weekly Tall Talk. Not to mention our YouTube channel.
It, though.
Got it.
We're done.
The Weekly Tall Talk on YouTube has all of our podcasts up there, and we're happy to say that we've been finally got our channel for Tall Talk Gaming.
Yep.
We've been doing some live streams lately on Tall Talk Gaming on Twitch. We're working on how to also stream on YouTube when we do that. So you get 2-factor authentication from the Tall Talk guys.
Are these guys playing? Check YouTube. Yep.
Oh, they are.
Wow.
But we're looking forward to putting out our stuff. We're dotting our I's and crossing our T's with that page. So be sure to follow us at Tall Talk Gaming. We'll be able to put up our video game stuff like we talked about today. We brought up a lot of video games that we like, and some of those are on the docket for what we're playing. So if you want to see us live stream and suck, or suck on, just check it out. Corey, cut that.
We'll small talk you later. I'm absolutely not cutting that.
Come on, man. You want to suck on? Oh.